Hi guys, shooter full of holes here. Sorry it's been a while. I think it's been at least over a year that I've made a video, since I've made a video. Sorry, I've been super busy tearing down my garage, rebuilding it, doing a lot of side work, and finally I've actually been doing a little bit of hunting and stuff like that. So anyway, it's been a crazy year. So, normally I talk about air rifles and, stuff that has to do with air rifles and stuff like that. Bows also. But today I'm going to talk about something that happened to my nephew and his buddy when they were out hunting. So, let me start off with this is about the Savage models, the Axis and the Edge. So let me start with a Savage 110. This is the Savage model 110. And what happened to them was that they went out in the woods hunting for deer, and both of them had a shot at two different deer, but their rifles went click. There was a slight marking on the primer, but misfire. So the Savage 110, now they were carrying the Axis, okay, which is the same as the Edge. This is a different model. This is the 110, it's the old version, the older version. Then came out all the newer ones and all that stuff. But let me show you something about this model. So there's nothing in the magazine, nothing in the chamber, okay? But when you theoretically rack a round in the chamber and you put the safety on, okay, this model, which they had for many years, probably decades, is almost, and this is what I like about this model, is flawless. It's made for hunters. So, squeeze the trigger, nothing happens. But here's the important part. The bolt doesn't move either. You'd find that on Remingtons, on Rugers, stuff like that. Now there's a reason for that, okay? So now anyway, when you take it off of safety, okay, take it off of safety, you'll see the red dot there now, okay? And the gun is ready to fire, which it does, okay? That's a basic bolt-action rifle as we know it. Now, Savage decided to cut corners, just like Remington and etc. Here's the Savage Axis. This is the first model. I think the Axis number 2 comes with the AccuTrigger. And the AccuTrigger is a much better trigger, etc. whatever. But down to the bolt. So this is the rifle that they were carrying that day. Okay, theoretically, there's nothing in the magazine, nothing in the chamber, so you theoretically chamber a round. Okay, it is ready to go. You've got the safety on. Okay, trigger won't fire. Perfect. But here's the biggest flaw with this rifle. So you carry this rifle, you sling it on your shoulder, you walk around, you brush up against trees and whatever. This is what happens to the bolt. It lifts. Okay? So what happened to them? Now, I'm not saying that this is the cause of every misfire. You could also have spring fatigue, etc. happening with your rifle. But I think this is what happened to both. It happened to both of them basically at the same time. So there's the bolt. Let's say this is about halfway open. Okay, you see the deer? You take it off of safety, you can see the red now, red dot. Look at the bolt when I squeeze the trigger. So that's the problem with this design. And we've done testing on it. We've used spent cases and just reprimed them just to see how bad this is, you know. And we've chambered around, and just with the bolt being 1/8 of an inch, which is not much, and firing, all it does is it leaves a dent in the primer. Excuse me, a dent in the primer, but it will not fire. So basically, this bolt has to be 100% down for the hammer to hit the pin and the pin to strike the primer with enough force. There have also been some reports online of spring fatigue. It's a possibility, you know. Sometimes, you know, they have a flaw with a certain part. Now, the only thing that I can think of to make this somewhat, or to prevent this to some degree, is two ways, you know. One, you chamber around, theoretically, nothing in there. You've got it on safety, you carry this rifle, and when the time comes and you shoulder it, you know, let's say the bolt's up, you mentally make the note of putting your finger on the bolt and making sure that's down before you take the safety off and firing, okay? Which take a second, you know. And I'll tell you, just like every other hunter, there's been times when I've been ready to go and I forget to take the safety off, and I'm like, eh. So if I forget that, that's an added step. Now I have to mess with the bolt. Anyway, the other way is you theoretically chamber around, and instead of taking the bolt all the way down, you squeeze the trigger and gently pull the bolt down. So what you have now is the hammer and pin resting on the primer, which doesn't make me feel very safe, but one thing I have noticed is that now there's pressure on the bolt, the spring pressure on the bolt from the hammer. So it keeps the bolt closed a lot easier. You can still brush up against something hard enough and maybe it'll lift the bolt up, but it's going to take quite a bit of pressure. And you can sling it over your shoulder, walk around, you know, for 5 miles. Deer comes out, and this is where you're going to have to pull the bolt up, push it down. Now it's the hammer's in the rear position. You don't have to take the safety off because you can't put the safety on when the bolt is down like that, with the hammer down, so it will prevent you from doing that. So basically it's ready to shoot and fire, you know. So that's the second way. But I found it pretty interesting that, you know, Savage would kind of, you know, to cut costs, would take that out of their design. I don't know, me as a gun manufacturer, if I was a gun manufacturer, I would there's no way in hell I would take that out. You know, that's a major safety hunting feature. That's a huge, like, I'd rather give up everything else, but except that, I don't know what I'd give up. I mean, they've given up a lot already. I mean, we're down to plastic stocks. You know, this is not the original stock. Now, it's a nice Boyd stock, which costs a lot more money. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, okay, so you've got a rifle that's accurate and fires, but can't carry it around in the woods loaded. So I don't know how that works out. But anyway, so that's my little 2 cents for today. Again, apologize for not making videos a long time. But you know, life, that's how it is. Sometimes you just gotta take what you can get and deal with what you gotta deal with, and that's how life is. So anyway, like I always say, go out in the woods, put up a target, hopefully your gun won't go click, and you get to shoot it full of holes. See you guys later.